Alright, let's talk about something interesting in a Go called the init function. Now you might be wondering what exactly is init. Well, it is a special function in a Go that runs automatically before the main function. Yes, before your actual program start running, go check if there is an init function, and if it is exists, it execute it first. So think of it like a init that is a morning routine you follow the before you starting your day, just like how you might brush your teeth, check your message and get ready. Init prepares your Go program before the real action begin in the main function. So now, when do we use this? There are the three main situations. First, package level initialization. So let's say you have some variables or configuration setting at the package level. You want them set up before anything else happen. Init helps you to do that. Second, you might need to set up the database connection, read from the config file, or we will load some environment variables. These are the things you want to ready before the main logic of your program runs. And the third, it is also useful when you want to run some code automatically when the program start without needing to call it manually from the main function. So in short, init is like a backstage crew at a theater show. The audience only see the main act, but without init, the show will not be ready to begin. And the best part, you do not even have to call init. Go will handle it for you. So let's move on and understand how it actually works on the next slide. Okay, now that we know what init is, let's understand when exactly it runs. So here's the deal. Go take care of calling init for you. But the timing of that matters, especially if you are working with a multiple package of setting of some global stuff. So let's break it down. So first init run after the all the variable declaration in the package. So if you have declared some variable at the top level of your package, Go sets them first, and then it run the init function. Think of it like you first arrange all the tools on your table, and then you start using them. Second, init runs before the main function. So this is super important. If you are wondering why your init logic runs even when you did not call it from the main function, so it is because Go is doing it for you before the main even gets a chance to execute. So third one is each package get only one run of init. So even if you import the same package multiple times across your code base, the init inside the package run just once. That's to avoid the duplicate setup and confusion. And here's the key thing. There is an order to all this. If your program import the other packages, Go first run the init of those imported package, and then it run the init of your current package. And finally, it moves on to your main function. So it's like import the package, your package, and then afterwards main. So why should you care about this? Imagine you are building an app that connects to a database. Maybe the connection logic is another package. You need that to be ready before your main code start using it. That's where init become super useful. It makes sure that things are set up in the right order. So yeah, init gives you clean and control way to handle the startup stuff without cluttering your main function. Alright, let's see how the init function actually looks like in a real Go program. So let's switch into the VS Code. So this is the simple example of init function. Let's try to understand line by line. So first is package main. So this line is just saying that, hey, this is the main package which is required if you want to run the standalone Go program. So every Go program start with the main needs to have this. Then afterwards, import fmt. So we are importing the fmt package. This is the built-in Go package that helps you to print the stuff on the screen like fmt.println. Then afterwards, now you can see init function. So notice two things. First, you do not give it any parameter. And second, you do not call it yourself. Go call this automatically before it run main. So inside the init, we are just printing the message like init function is running. So that helps you see that this function is being executed even through we never call it manually. And finally, we have the main function. So the main function actually entry point of your Go program always start here after the finishing init. So this kind of a setup is useful when you want to do something like a load config file or check some system setting before the main Go program start doing it works. So let's see what should be the output of this. So go run code.go. So here you can see first it is executing, init function is running, and then afterwards main function is running. All right. So here's a something a lot of beginners find surprising at first. So in a Go, you are allowed to have a multiple init function in the same file or even across the different file in the same package. And yes, Go will run all of them one by one in a order they appear in the file. So imagine you are cooking class, you are in a cooking class. So let's say there are the three chefs and each one is preparing something different for the same days. Chef 1 chops the vegetable, Chef 2 boils the water, and Step 3 adds the spices. Even though they all the work on the same days, they have a separate role. That exactly how multiple init function work. They each do their part during the program startup. Now here's the important part. So Go will not skip any of them. It will call each init function in the order they appear to the bottom. So this can be useful if you are organizing your code into the section, like maybe one init handles the logging setup, another one load some config, and the third one connects to a database. But here's a small caution: don't go overboard with the too many init function. It can make your code hard to read if there is a too much happening behind the scene. So always make sure it is a clear why each init is there. So remember, you can have multiple inits and Go will take care of calling all of them in a order. So we will see how the looks like in the code in the next slide. Now let's clear up the difference between the two very important function in a Go, init and main. Both are the special, both are run automatically, but they serve very different purposes. Let's walk through this comparison one row at a time. So we are comparing init and main function. So init is used to set up the things up when your program start, like preparing ingredients before you start the cooking, and main is the actual starting point of your program. This is where the action happen. Call by both init and main are called by Go runtime, which means you do not have to call them yourself. Go automatically runs init first and then it runs the main function arguments. Neither of the them take any arguments. You just write them like a function init and function main, no parameters needed. This one way to go keep things simple for you. Again, both functions do not return anything. They do their job and exit. No need to send back any result. So this is the back. This is because they are meant to do work, not return the values. So purpose of so this is the key difference. Init is the initialize your package things like loading config files, setting default values, or preparing the database connection. And main is the entry point of your application, whatever the user is supposed to see or whatever logic you want to run when the app start, that goes in the main function. So init is the setting the stage, main is the actual performance. Both are important, but they serve different roles. Now that you know the difference, you will know exactly where to write what, especially in the real world projects where setup and logic often need to be separated. So now you might be wondering, okay, I get what init does, but when should I actually use it? Great question. Let's look at the real life situation where using the init makes sense. So loading the config file. So imagine you are building the small Go app that connects to the server or database. You do not want to hard code the things like the IP address or password, right? So instead you keep those values in a config file, maybe a JSON or .env file. So now using init, you can automatically load that file as soon as the program starts without writing anything in the main function. So registering the plugins. Let's say your project supposed to plugins and modules, maybe for tool, framework, or game engine. With init, each plugin can register itself with the system, right, when the package is loaded. So this keeps things modular and clean. You do not have to manually call the register everywhere. Validating environment variables. In a lot of backend project, we use the environment variable like for database URL, API keys, or token. With init, you can check if these variables are set properly before your main app logic begins. That way, if something is missing, you can show an error and exit early instead of crashing midway. Setting the default values. If your program depends on the certain global values, init is a great place to assign the safe default values. This helps to avoid null errors or unexpected behavior later in your code. So establishing initial connection. For example, if your app connects to a database or opens a log file, why wait till main function? Just set up the connection in init, and your app is ready to go when main starts. So in short, init is a perfect for preparing your program to run smoothly. It's like a warming up before the match start, but always use it wisely. Keep it clean, short, and only for the things that really need to happen at a startup. So all right, let's move ahead and wrap things up. All right, before we wrap up, let's talk about a few best practices when you are working with the init in a Go. So try to avoid complex logic in init. So try to not to write a big calculation loops or business logic inside the init. Why? Because init runs silently behind the scene. So if something goes wrong there, it's harder to debug. So keep it simple, maybe just loading the config and setting flags. Do not use for the critical business logic. So do not put core features your app inside the init. Let's say you are building an e-commerce site, things like calculating the cart totals or processing the payment. Those should be a in main or proper function, not inside the init. So use init only for the startup stuff like preparing the environment or initializing the services. Keep init minimal and clear. So think of it init as a helper, not the main hero. Whoever reads your code later should instantly understand what the init function is doing. If it is more than few lines, ask yourself, does this really need to be an init? Then afterwards, explicit initialization in the main when possible. So in most cases, it actually better to initialize the things directly inside the main function or by calling the clear setup function like a setup of a database or load the config. Why? Because then reader sees everything happening in a one places. No surprises. Use init when the setup is needed at a package level or has to happen automatically, but don't overuse it. So yeah, keep init clean, short, and purposeful. Think of it like the behind the scene crew, not the star of the show. All right. With that, you now know not just how init works, but also how to use it well in a real Go projects.